case of sort of having this vision and being okay with the kind of like bumps and like failures along the way.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Chasing Light Collective, the collective for creators by creators. In today's episode, I'm joined by the wonderful Jack Manners. Jack, how are we feeling?
Yeah, real good, mate. Real good. Looking forward to getting stuck in.
Oh, mate, I cannot wait to just get into the conversations about some of your work. So, like, for those of you who don't know Jack, he understands photography on like a different level. A lot of people can take photos, don't get me wrong, but like something that I've learned from your work is there's like taking photos and then there's taking photos. I know that sounds really
man,
stupid,
you're too kind to me, bro. I appreciate that a lot. That's yeah, that means the most, honestly, man. Thank you. Thank you.
So, I mean, let's go right back to where did it all begin? Where did photography start for you? How old are you? Where are you? Let's go right back to the beginning.
So, as it stands, I'm 22 years old, turning 23 in July. Photography for me started about, I think I've been doing it for about 3 years now, I think. It started off as just a little hobby. Like I remember I liked going out and taking photos of sunsets, as most people do start off with photography.
We've all been there.
We know it, mate. You know, high saturation, nice HDR, you know.
Yeah, we've all been there. Bump those colours up.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, just going out with my phone and doing that. And people, my friends were just sort of like, hey, these are nice. And I was like, I don't really know what made it happen, but like I just sort of thought, well, I want to sort of look into getting a camera to sort of maybe do a bit of a better job at this. And there's a guy, David, who lives over in California that I followed on Instagram for a while. And he just took some really beautiful shots and I was really inspired by it. And I messaged him asking like, oh, hey dude, like I'm looking at getting into photography.
Oh wow, so you actually went to someone
straight
up similar to what I'm doing here with this book in terms of reaching out to people and getting involved. You kind of reached out and that's kind of what kicked you off a little bit.
That's it, mate. Yeah, I mean, I reached out to him and said like, would you recommend like a beginner camera? And he recommended the humble Sony A6000. So I got it on that advice and that's where it all kicked off, really.
So you went straight from a phone to a Sony A6000. That's
you know,
that's a hell of a jump.
We ain't playing games, mate. You know, I figured I may as well go in with it.
You just really went full force, and I can't blame you.
It's got to be done, doesn't it?
And it's funny. You've been on some serious adventures, and there's so much work that I couldn't even feature within the book. Briefly, we could go over some of those New York shots that didn't even make it in the book, which just goes to show the level of work that you'll continue to achieving. And was New York one of your first big adventures, or was there something before that?
So for me, I mean, New York was an absolutely incredible experience. It was something that I got to go with uni, which was an unbelievable experience and a privilege to have the opportunity for that. So I basically being in New York with about 40 of my mates from uni is, I mean, it's like it's a dream come true.
You can't really beat that, can you?
Honestly, mate. Yeah.
Where did you go from there?
That's the thing. You know, it was definitely a really big experience in like being in a big city. Like I'm from Dorset. Like I'm not very accustomed to sort of city life. So
yeah,
it was quite
a bit of
nice.
A country mouse.
Yeah, you know me, mate. You know me. But yeah, it was proper. It was a really unique, really interesting experience, and I think it's one that definitely is a very, very significant step on my sort of photographic journey and developing my kind of eye and developing my style, my practice, and all that.
Oh, for sure. And do you sort of think, because I mean, New York for you, given your journey's only been 2 or 3 years, like you say, that's, I mean, to go on a trip like that only within sort of a year and a half, perhaps, of doing it, kind of set the precedent for the rest of what happened since.
That's the thing. I mean, it's, I guess it's like, what do they say? The only way is up, isn't it? I mean, I think it's one of those kind of things, like the reason that I went on it, on the trip was I'm very much a kind of, I try and like force myself into do things that I might have conventionally been like a little bit too kind of shy to think of. Like I could
so sort of put you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I could very easily have just sort of chosen to not go on that trip, but I thought, well, you know what? Like it's such a unique experience, especially to go with so many of my friends as well. It'd be rude not to.
Do you think photography's kind of pushed you out of some uncomfortable situations and put you sort of out of your comfort zone a little bit?
Yes and no. I think yes, in that it started to kind of show me that process of being out of your comfort zone, but no, in the sense that I know there's a lot more discomfort to come, kind of thing. like I know my first year of uni, I tried doing some sort of documentary style practice, and it's just I'm like I think I sort of like to think of myself as a people person, but it was
Yep.
so hard to like approach people on the streets, and like it's really difficult to just like kind of build that kind of relationship with complete strangers. And it's I think the sort of social aspect of something is quite like is quite daunting for me to a degree. But similarly though, like on the flip side of that, the idea of working with other photographers and other professionals in the industry, like makeup artists and sort of graphic designers, and that collaborative aspect, it's incredible. Like it's the best kind of experience.
It really is it's a network that kind of never stops growing, isn't
Oh,
it?
100%, 100%.
It doesn't matter how old you are in the industry, you continue to learn new things and you continue to meet new people. And it's very interesting you saying that. And something I hadn't really considered was the aspect of, especially for both of us, Jack being based in Dorset, myself being based in Devon, it's very rural, it's very, very countryside, everything's kind of landscapey. When you get thrown into sort of like an urban sort of environment like New York or somewhere like that, big cities, populated areas, for me as well, that would be putting me out of my comfort zone for sure. So and I wouldn't say I'm the most shy person in the world. I back myself with confidence most of the time, but I think if it was asking people randomly in the street, things like that, it would throw me off. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine on that kind of scale. So
It's a funny old thing, I don't think it's something that anyone has like there's no hard and fast rule to it, I don't think.
no,
Like
of course not, and nobody's born with it.
yeah, that's it. Like you just sort of got to, it's one of those things like everyone figures it out eventually, I think.
Do you think that's perhaps why most of your work in the chapter is in more rural locations, perhaps?
I would definitely say so. I think it's one of those kind of things like the way I kind of approach photography. I'm quite like like I feel it's very kind of up for yourself to say like you're a perfectionist, because that implies that your work is like it implies you
No,
sort of think
I
quite highly of
know,
it.
I
But like
completely get it.
it's
I think I think there's a fine line between saying your work is perfect and striving for perfection. And I
for
think
sure.
what you continue to do I mean, if we talk about one particular shot, I don't know how to
Mm.
describe it without obviously showing you it. It would be it's the opening shot within your chapter. The sort of it's a house. It looks almost like a long exposure with the light coming and
Oh,
beaming out, and some of the
that
tones in that,
with
just the simplicity is
yeah, yeah.
wow.
Now the sort of now the story behind that one, actually, I think I know the one you're talking about.
Mm.
It's actually a public toilet, as a matter of fact.
No
And
way.
yeah, believe it or not,
No,
um,
joking.
it was, yeah, man. It was down. That was actually I got that shot while I was waiting for. I was with my good friend Callum, and we were waiting for the sun to basically just set completely
Mhm.
for one of the shoots that I was doing for one of my uni projects, where I
Right,
was
right.
shining light around rock faces and all that. And we were just chilling in the car park, and I was like, "Hey, the light's really nice coming out of that public toilet there. Let's see if we can make a frame out of it." Uh, and we both managed to, so that was real nice.
Honestly, I can't even imagine the before and after on it. But i- for someone who, and this is why I'm struggling to get my head around it, because I presumed you'd been doing photography for 5, 6, 7 years, perhaps. But
Yeah.
your composition, your eye, everything, and you've only
I,
just recently upgraded to a new camera. But let's
yes.
ignore that for a minute and let's stick to what we're talking about here. And what you've done with the tools that you've had, well, ignoring the tools, I mean, it's a remarkable piece of work, and that kind of composition can take years to not even just learn, but just to sort of become accustomed to.
Oh,
So
bless you, man.
for you to sort of see that public toilet, I can't believe it's a public toilet. I can't believe that shot is a public toilet. That's what I'm getting my head around now. Um, to sort of line that up and go, yeah, all right, I can make that look like that, and then have all that negative space and it's not too much light coming out of the building. It's almost like the perfect long exposure. So you should be incredibly proud of yourself to have come to that.
Mate, you're
And
too kind. I appreciate that a lot. It means the most to hear that, honestly.
is it
Thank
is it
you.
from the same experience, experience, perhaps wrong word, same time as the
Hmm.
rest of the shots from the mountains, which I want to say is Wales. Is it in Wales? The mountain?
Oh yes, yeah, that was from Wales.
Is it the same trip?
It was not the same trip. No, that was
Oh, okay.
so a lot of the mountains were down, well, all the mountains were down in Wales, or
Mhm.
up in Wales, should I say?
Yep, yep.
And
Oh, we're talking about North Wales, aren't we? I presume.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, Snowdonia, whole
yeah.
national
I had
park.
a feeling.
That's He knows if it's going to be somewhere, it's going to be there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And the other one, the public toilet was down in Weymouth, actually, down in Portland.
You're
So
joking.
yeah, yeah, but believe it or not, it was a nice little find. But it's yeah, they were. I think Snowdonia was. That will have been before. Yeah, Snowdonia was before the public toilet. I went there with Callum.
Same
We
guy.
went there. Yeah, same guy. He's yeah. We've been around a bit together.
Did Callum go to
Um,
New York as well, or?
he did not. Nah. He's one of my mates from home.
Oh,
But
okay.
he's we've sort of got into photography together and kind of yeah, like
So he's on a bit of a
following the
similar
trip.
path.
That's it, mate. Yeah, that's it.
That's so cool.
And yeah, it's good. It's good to have someone like that.
Yeah, no,
Believe you
for
me.
sure, for sure.
And yeah, the Snowdonia was in August last year. Sort of in the gap between lockdowns, we went there for a week.
Yeah.
And then the public toilet would have been around. I'm going to say probably November sometime, I think. Yeah, so a couple of months after. But yeah, all the mountains were before that.
Okay, no, that's really interesting, and I sort of would have presumed they would have been from the same area because
Mm,
it's very the way you've kind of captured the light and the color tones you've gone for. Maybe that's just your style, but
could be.
it's all incredible. I think it must be your style because it's all incredibly similar. And sort of the sun sets over the mountains, even those shots. I believe there's a shot of a caravan next to what
Yep.
looks like a lake or a pond or something.
Yeah, next to a lake that was. Yeah.
Yeah, another stunning shot. And I'm interested to hear from you what sort of focal length you were shooting at when you had that caravan shot,
Ooh.
because it's
Um,
it's an interesting one because
yeah.
it looks like you've had to punch in from distance, or am
I
I
yeah
am I
yeah.
wrong?
I think that was so all of those were shot with my A6000.
Yeah.
I think that shot will have been with the Sony 18 to 105 f4. Fantastic
F4,
lens,
wow, that's
fantastic lens for that camera. I must recommend. Really versatile. I think that would have definitely been on the 105mm end of it. So yeah, it was a sort of. I mean, I guess on a full frame that comes to about 160mm ish. So it's a fairly sort of mid-range telephoto kind of length.
But I mean, to shoot f4, still capture that much light on a lens that perhaps many professionals probably wouldn't go to. It's a bit
Oh yeah,
more of sort of an amateur's. It's versatile, like you said. It does the job
that's it.
for many things, and the fact that you got that shot out of that really goes to show. And I think that should inspire a lot of people that because it borderline. What we're talking about there is a kit lens essentially.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an upgraded kit lens, really.
Yeah,
Like
essentially.
it's versatile. It does a job across a whole range. It's yeah, nothing too specialist.
So would you say that? I mean, not just holding a camera, not just sort of taking the pictures. We're talking about a bit more than that. We're talking about a bit more like you've learnt a craft. You've learnt how to edit as well within sort of 2 years, within 3 years. Which sort of came first? Because that sounds like a silly question, but some people come to a camera having had some background experience with
Hmm.
editing and things like that.
So I think that's a good question. Actually, to be fair, definitely it was the photography that came first,
Okay.
and editing that came second. I think it was for me the kind of editing sort of learning curve came from kind of wanting more out of the photos that I took. Like
Yeah.
it was like yeah, I can do so and so with the camera. But there's the way I kind of always viewed editing and the editing of photos is that you should use it to like because I mean a camera will never capture what the human eye can see. Like a camera is a tool to
That's
sort of
a really
assist the
interesting.
vision.
It's a very
Um,
interesting point, and I hate to cut you off a minute, but
oh, that's fine, mate. Yeah.
no. And I feel like there's something a bit more to that
Mm,
kind of needs to be elaborated on. And
okay.
it's so many people will pick up a camera, and I think we've all been there, and we've taken a shot which looks a little bit shoddy, and
Mm,
it can be the most unmotivating thing in the world. And especially when all you see online, social media, professionals, and you see all this incredible content they come out with. But more than often, you hardly ever, although perhaps maybe not so much now, but people are now becoming more public about their before and afters and the editing process that goes into it. But for a long
Mm.
time, a lot of people would presume that those photos come straight out of the camera.
Oh yeah.
And did you ever have moments where it might have felt unmotivating because you were
Sort
like,
of.
I don't really know what I'm doing here because it doesn't look as great in the camera as it does after it's been edited?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one of those kind of things. Like, I think it's I don't know. I mean, for me, it's editing has always been like a necessary part of the process. Like, I don't think I ever went into this expecting to have like fantastic like magazine ready images like straight out of camera. Like, I think it's that, and it can be quite like a harsh learning curve when you do start taking shots that you think, oh, why don't these look like I want them to straight out of camera?
Yeah,
And I think that's when you sort of like you'll kind of push yourself to start like looking into how to like do post-production on images, because it's I mean, it's a necessary thing. Like, any practicing professional will always incorporate, like, you don't, no professional gets like good images straight out of camera. Like, they'll get ones that are like you look at and think, yeah, that's good, but it's never the finished article, basically.
And
And
I think that's so important for,
100%.
especially as I want this project to kind of inspire, motivate people to, if they never tried photography, try out for themselves the first time. And I think it's really important that people understand that the finished article isn't what's in the camera. It's
Definitely.
kind of, it's as much as that eye that you have afterwards and
Yes.
your style, and just like what we were saying about your photos, although they're in so many different locations, they all look like they could be in the same place because they've got like that Jack Manners edit. They've got like that Jack Manners style to it. So
I mean, just latching off on that. Sorry to cut you up there a little bit, mate.
No,
it sort of, it made me realize, like, not realize, but it's reminded me of a kind of point that, like, it's I think the thing is, like, it's to not be disheartened with, like, if you do take like a bad photo, if there is such a thing, it's I think it's about having that kind of end vision. Like, it's the fact that you view the whole process as like an organic kind of thing. Like, rather than thinking, oh, I see this thing, I like this thing, and now I have to be able to capture it exactly as it is. It's a case of sort of having this vision and being okay with the kind of like bumps and like failures along the way. Like, just because it doesn't look like you wanted it to, it doesn't mean that like it can't look that way.
It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that it can't be used. Like,
that's the thing.
I think the best creators are the ones who can do anything with anything, and
absolutely,
find that diamond on the rough and sort of put your own shine on things, even if it's not necessarily, like you said, even if it's not necessarily the thing that you visualize straight out of camera. And I think a lot of people, and something I've had to learn myself, is how do you tell a story from anything? That's as hard a thing as learning to take a basic photo is. And that's where I'm so impressed. And going back to it, I'm still getting my head around. Your entire chapter is based off of sort of two or 3 years of work. And the big double page within your book is a shot you've only shared recently to the public anyway.
Yeah.
And again, I presume that's from Wales. It looks like it must be Wales, yeah.
It is indeed, yeah.
It's a big lake within sort of a mountainous landscape for the people at home who haven't seen the book or haven't seen the work quite yet. And I don't know how you've nailed that sort of, it's almost like a dreamlike state, because so many landscape shots are they're almost boosted with loads of clarity, and everything's really detailed and everything's sort of over exaggerated, whereas what you've got there is like a borderline painting. So talk me through, is that how you planned it to look? Has it happened afterwards? Go through that a little bit.
Of course. I mean, so it's a little bit of both on that, I think. I mean, actually, that shot that didn't by no means made like the sort of first kind of cut of like when I was looking through the photos from
really
that trip.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I only actually really came back to look at it once you were asking me to submit photos for this, as a matter of fact.
Does that happen a lot with some of your work?
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, of the photos that turn out the sort of way I want, or in a way that I like from any kind of batch, like, I'll take like 400 or something photos, and I'll probably use like 10 of them. Like, it's,
and that's another thing that a lot of people who don't work in the industry or don't even have to work in the street. People who don't pick up a camera or maybe have only just started, they might think it's really bad practice to take hundreds and hundreds of photos and only get 3 or 4 good ones. But that's the reality.
That's the thing. I mean, there's definitely it's something I'm trying to sort of refine more, is that to kind of think more and take fewer photos and sort of like really consider every frame, which is one of the big sort of perks of film photography, which is something that I'm reasonably sort of like well acquainted with, but not by any means as much as a lot of the people that actively practice it. It's that sort of process of slowing down. But I think, I don't know, I mean, obviously the sort of the place that started off for me is that like I'd take tons of photos and I hope that one of them would be a really good one. And I'm kind of refining that down a bit now, but it's you kind of never really know what little nuances there's going to be about like a scene or a frame. Like you want to have a few of the same kind of shot, for me at least, just to make sure that one of them is definitely like good in the right areas, or if something's a bit out of focus, I could probably comp it in with a more in focus bit from the same kind of shot. But I think it's again, it's one of those kind of things, like I often find that if I'm obsessed with like a landscape, like that was actually, that shot in particular was taken halfway up Mount Snowdon at sunrise,
Right.
And it was a bit of a misty morning, and I think I was just really just like I was obsessed with just this what I was seeing in the viewfinder kind of thing. Like it sounds kind of cliche, but I would see it and be like, I just want one more, like
I completely
just
understand that. You get so caught up in the moment, I bet.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And I'd love to just sit and chat for so much longer about the rest of your work, but you know, let's end on what's next for you. What's the next big project? What are you doing when these restrictions sort of lift, and what's your next big project? You know, what are you excited to be doing?
So, at the moment, with university, I'm in my second year studying commercial photography. So keeping nice and solid to it. I'm doing two projects as it stands that I'm hoping to have done by sort of June time. One of which is like a beauty portraiture studio based project, and the other which is a sort of narrative driven advertising shoot.
Right. Okay.
So I'm really just trying to branch out as much as I can, and I need to kind of prove that I'm able to work with models and sort of like the more kind of diverse sets. Obviously landscapes are where everything sort of began for me, but I just want to like experience as much of it as possible, and I love working with people, so I figure, you know, I may as well try and get it done sooner rather than later, and sort of see what kind of evolution that kind of journey might bring to me.
And I think the people at home, myself, even yourself, I think there's lots of people who are excited to see where your journey takes you. I mean, if you've already achieved all this in 2 years, who knows what's next for you, and who knows where you're going to be in 10 years. It's incredible what you've already achieved. You should be incredibly proud of yourself.
We'll wait and see.
Well, like I said, I would love to be able to chat longer. And the beauty of this is you guys can check out all of Jack's work. His Instagram's on screen. Go and give him a little follow and check him out, and, you know, see his work in the book. I can't really put it into words, and that's a beautiful picture, because a picture can tell 1,000 words. Jack, thank you very much for your time today.
Been a pleasure as always, George. I really appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much.
No problems at all. And like I said, go and check out the rest of Jack's work, and I'll see you in the next episode of Chasing Light. Thank you.